So, meine Damen und Herren, ladies and gentlemen, it is with incredible pleasure that I can present to you one of the great maestros and a good friend, Gabriel Feltz. Please mute your microphones, please, when you come in. I ask you to please mute your microphones when you come in. But at the same time, please feel free to ask questions in the chat as we go through. Maestro Feltz has prepared a very wonderful presentation for you. So I think you're all going to be able to enjoy this incredibly insightful and experienced roadmap of Mahler's Sixth Symphony, generously offered by Gabriel Feltz, who just had his opening night concert in Kiel, in the Theater Kiel, where he's the new general music director. And of course, I've known Gabriel for many years as he's been music director in Dortmund and in Belgrade. And thanks to him, I've had wonderful relationships with both of these orchestras. So, Gabriel, thank you for your time, for your generosity, your experience and wisdom. And I give the podium to you. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. So, hello, everybody worldwide. I'm looking forward a lot for your questions and for your attention for this upcoming hour, for one of the most energetic and most dramatic and most famous pieces in the orchestra's history and in the history of the classical music. So, Mahler 6 is the main theme for tonight, and I will give you a short overview about my lessons just right now. I give the first chapter only some general informations, let's say like that, or main informations about the time when Mahler composed the piece. And the chapter 2 will be one extremely hard, in my opinion, one extremely difficult question, which we really try to scan, to observe, and make. Also, maybe you will find your own way with this piece. And this is a problem of the middle movements. In which order we play the middle movements in Mahler 6? Very interesting question, I think. We need a bit time for that. Number 3, the chapter 3 will be, of course, the traditional kind of road across the score with all the details and my experience with that piece. I conducted the piece 12 times in my life. And at the end, if we have still a bit time, there's a kind of, resolution, a kind of finishing comment by my side, and then it's time for questions. So let's start. Mahler's 6 is inside of the triplet of 3 instrumental symphonies. As you know, I make it short, is of course number 5 and number 7. The first performance was on the 27th of May in 1906 in Essen, in the Ruhrgebiet in Germany. Essen as a city is still very proud about this gigantic point of history that Mahler was conducting his 6th symphony himself in that town. The first publishing of the score was by C.F. Kant in the 9th of November in 1905, so like a half year earlier. The name Tragic Symphony is not personal for Mahler. It is kind of maybe a bit a sign of that time. There was a lot of titles for a lot of instrumental works. It is a kind of marketing trick a bit. Of course, the content is there in a way for the name, the Tragic, but we have to notice it was not Mahler's intention to give the piece really a nickname or a name or a title in that way. We know also how difficult it was for Mahler to be really kind of recognized as a composer. So he was working in the beginning with programs, and then later he destroyed the programs the literary ideas always himself, because he wanted for the future, for the people listen to his music when he is died a long time ago, that they take the music as pure, only as symphonic music, not as anything else. But the tragic aspect is, of course, very important, but was not there in Mahler's life. For me, it's very important that in the time when Mahler composed the Sixth Symphony, this is 1903 to 1906, with the last corrections, that was maybe his most happiest time in his life, which is quite interesting. He was married with Alma Mahler, of course, and we know later they had a lot of problems as a couple, but not in the beginning. They got 2 children, and the older daughter, Maria Anna, was dying in 1907, but this is later, though it was not in the time when the Sixth was composed. All the symphonies by Mahler, there was a lot of corrections, always by Mahler self. He was always in doubt about instrumentation, orchestration, and the themes and the variations of the theme and so on. Maybe this high level of changing always details was the most less situation in the Sixth Symphony. We have kind of a symphony which is pretty ready from the last point of Mahler's writing, and then coming for the edition and then playing. There's not so many great change in the details, like as we have, for example, with the Fifth Symphony. The Fifth Symphony is really a dilemma because we have so many versions of that. I think also to start is also very interesting the point that Mahler and Strauss were dominating the market in that moment, a bit as composers, Strauss for all, and Mahler as a conductor. And they had a good friendship, and we have also kind of a lot of documents in letters, in written letters. And it's very interesting that Strauss was also listening for the Sixth Symphony, I think twice. Mahler conducted 3 times in his life the Sixth Symphony. So I think it's Essen, it's Munich, and Vienna. And it is interesting that the composer of Salome and Electra, Richard Strauss, made a comment that Mahler 6 has an over-orchestration. Can you believe it? I mean, it's interesting in that timeline that Salome is 1905 at the same time. For the German music history, I think really a fantastic year. We got the 2 masterpieces. So it's Salome by Strauss and Mahler 6 in the same time. Of course, a special place in Mahler symphonies, where we have at all 60 movements all together, which is a lot, has a finale, the movement number 4 in the 6, which is very long with 820 bars. And the conductor William Mengelberg, a conductor who was a friend of Mahler and conducted very soon after Mahler's death the piece many times, he said it is always kind of a horrifying moment to start the finale, because you are observing your own determination, your own kind of moving out from everything. I can kind of share that kind of opinion, that impression. It is always hard as a conductor after 3 movements to stay in front of the audience and then to start that gigantic movement. We have only one movement, which is in the same kind of dimension, so large, so huge, so incredible, long, big, with a kind of full-size orchestra. And this is, of course, the first movement of number 3 by Mahler. Both movements are roundabout. It depends a bit from the time of the tempo and all the interpretation of the conductors. Has almost a general length of 33 or 34 minutes. So in 1907, so 1 year after the first performance of number 6, that was a kind of catastrophic year for Mahler. His first daughter, Maria Anna, died, and he got that kind of diagnosis for his kind of heart problems, which is we have now in the kind of professional language today, the definition angina pectoris. And today we have a chance to heal it. You have kind of a chance to survive but in that time it was very difficult. And Mahler was really scared at all with his heart and the heartbeat, and was stopping and counting the heartbeats, all that obsession things, which is kind of a very dark chapter in his life. But if we look really a bit more neutral and kind of after more than 100 years, a bit more kind of generous for the Sixth Symphony, there's not too much autobiographic stuff maybe inside. This is at least my personal kind of opinion. So this is like for the beginning. And now chapter 2, we have almost the problem that we have a lot of conductors. I will call some names like Maurice Jansson, Simon Rattle, and so on. They play in the order: first movement, then the Andante movement in E flat major, and then the scherzo, and then the finale. We have in the older time, like with Otto Klemperer and Bruno Walter and Oskar Fried, and also Wilhelm Mengelberg, and also Leonard Bernstein, to call this great Mahler interpreter at all, of course, we have these guys always playing the order. First movement, of course, then the scherzo, and then the Andante, and then the finale. What's the point to become that kind of great problem? We have the first problem in the first performance ever in Essen. There was in the program printed scherzo Andante, but the critics, and we can kind of find them in internet, of course, they were describing Andante scherzo. Then we have by Gilbert Kaplan. I think almost the people know who that is. He is a kind of really great Mahler expert, and he conducted also number 2 and 6. After, I think, he made a career as a banker, as a broker, but he's a very, very kind of very smart person about all the oeuvre from Mahler, and he has kind of made a small book. Maybe we can see it a bit. So I try to make it a bit more clear. Oh, it's not. Oh, it's not coming, huh? Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's from 2004 from the Kaplan Foundation, the correct movement orders in Mahler's Sixth Symphony. And we have here a very interesting timeline in page 66. And he is kind of recapitulating all the performances at that time Oskar Fried is making, what the publisher is doing, then a kind of Zemlinsky's forehand piano redaction also. So at the end, it is too long for that moment to say what is exactly there, what is there. But we have at least 40%, let's say from 80 performances. This is Scherzo Andante. And we have 60%. I was really kind of searching a lot of years. We have Andante Scherzo. That means we have a situation which is like a bit of patch, like a remis. We don't know really what to do. I think this point is very interesting and also very special. In my life as a musician, I don't know any other piece which have that problem in this kind of really, strong situation. Because for the dramaturgic sense, for the atmosphere, for the character of a performance of Mahler 6, that means a lot. If you play Scherzo Andante or you play Andante Scherzo. So, I was searching now for some other reasons, and I will try to explain that a bit. I'm using now scores. John told me you all almost have a score. I have 3 scores, 3 different scores here. I have 2000 edition by the Internationale Gustav Mahler Gesellschaft, International Mahler Society. It is kind of the original C.F. Kant, but with corrections by the Mahler Society. But I have also on my side, 10 years later, the Kaplan Foundation, published by Reinhold Kubik. This is 2010. So this is kind of the newer version. So I will call the first one from 2000, the old, and the other one, the new. So that I hope you can follow me. Old is 2000, and is Füssel and Ratz and Kubik, and the new one is Kaplan. So in general, the old one has the order scherzo andante, the new one has andante scherzo. Also here is a problem totally there in our focus. We see it is really a difficult question. So that means for me as a musician, the most important point, of course, is what was Mahler's will? And we have one document which I try to share now with you. I hope. John, can you activate the screen for some documents? Because I can't give in that. Is that possible?
I'm trying to do that. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
thank you.
I'm able to get your, you can certainly share the note. Now you can try. You can share a note. Is that what you're trying to do?
No, I have a document which I can just kind of put on the screen to split for you all. Is that not working? Is also not kind of a real trouble.
I'm looking how I can do that. I don't want to take up too much time.
Yeah,
This
of course.
time we've had anybody ask to do that.
Yeah.
Here we go. No, I have to put you on the admin. I have to make you a host in order to be able to do that. So
now I think it looks good. It looks good. So can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Bravo.
Okay, so I guess everybody can see it. So if you can see here, this is handwriting of Gustav Mahler. So I think this is very important. You can see we have second movement here and 12 minutes. And if you take a careful look for that, you see there was an older edition and he corrected for himself his own kind of length. So formerly was there maybe the andante, which is with 15 minutes or longer. So here we see Mahler was correcting again and again. So Mahler was also unsure. This is a very important kind of notice that at the end, Mahler wrote 23 minutes for the first movement, 12 for the second movement, which can be now only the scherzo because the andante is too long for 12 minutes. And then the third movement with 50 minutes. And again, is corrected. You can see it very clear. And of course, the finale with 33 minutes. So now, when we have all that facts and still we are not clear with that, we start with a small analyze. The Sixth Symphony has a kind of general motif, which you have now here is a erster Satz, the bar number 59 and 60, first movement. This is his famous change from A major to A minor. And we can call that as a German, call that like Urzelle. That means a primary cell in a way. It is kind of the key cell for everything. The change from A major to A minor, attended by that kind of very clear fate, destiny, rhythm by the timpani, sometimes also two timpanis. So this is coming together in the first movement, as you see in the score for the first time. So then we have different moments for that to see it. Like for the example, the beginning of the fourth movement, again, like A major and A minor, and again, the main rhythm. We have also in the fourth movement, in the trombone section, in bar number 139, kind of a bit more as a secret. In the clarinet section, in the fourth movement, in 144 and 145. Also kind of combined in the whole orchestra. In the fourth movement from 4-2-3 coming to 4-2-6. Like as a question-answer game in the score, you can take a look. I'm hoping I'm not too fast for you. At the very end of the finale, we have only A minor in the tragic aspect, of course, when kind of the piece is over and also the life in any sense, which we will kind of explain later, is over and there's only darkness and death. And it's of course no major more there. It's only minor and it's kind of really a destructive, very destructive ending. So we have at all, I counted that we have almost like 6 examples for the major minor key in the first movement. We have 8 times in the scherzo, and we have in the andante only 1 example, which I will explain later. And we have incredible many examples for that major minor primary cell, let's call it like that. And this is 18 times. As an example, I will just give a short overview for the first movement, that you understand what I mean. So maybe you can follow me in the score. The first time from that 6 examples for the primary cell is bar number 59, I explained right now. The second time is bar 203. This is in the middle of the development part. This is now a C major and C minor key in a very lyrical aspect. The third time is 208. 208, let's take a look. That is just a couple of bars later in the same moment. Then we have 314. This is in the recapitulation part of the first movement. Again, in the breath section. Then we have 334, which is kind of the parallel part, kind of the twin part from the exposition from bar number 59. It's now a bit louder in the orchestration and a bit harder in the character. And the last time in the first movement is bar number 473. So this is 2 bars before the rehearsal number, before the big numbers, 45. So here is this in combination with the second C. So I will try to put it again on the screen. Yeah, good. Just a moment. Yeah. So we have together, let's count. 6 plus 8 is 14 plus 8. So then we have 32. And then 1 is 33 examples. But this only one in the slow movement, in the andante, we are still not sure in the moment which place it takes now. After the first movement or before the finale, we will see. This is kind of then 33 versions together. 33 versions, the same primary cell for one symphony, which almost take 82, 85 minutes. That means something. So if we have now a system, and we know Mahler was always putting movements together in Abteilung. This is the German character for him. Abteilung means kind of, it is not only one movement, it is kind of something together, like in number 3 is 2 and 3, or in number 5 is movement 1 and 2 together. So he was thinking that dimensions, of course. If we now trying to give the first 2 sentences in the 4 movement symphony, like number 6 together, and the number 3 and number 4 movement also together. So then we have 2 Abteilungen, let's call it departments. If we go in the order, andante, scherzo, then we have only 6 times the primary cell for the first department. But we have like 24 examples for the second time for 3 and 4, which is kind of a great disbalance. Then also we have, if we go now for the other order, like scherzo andante, then we have 14 times the primary cell in the first department, and then 19 times the primary cell in the second part, which is for me much more balanced for the kind of inside dramaturgy, for the inside schedule of the piece, much more logical, makes much more sense. Then also we know sometimes in historical performances, when Mahler or Mengelberg or Oskar Fried or Klaus Pringsheim, that is the conductors from that time, when they conducted that pieces, They were making breaks in the concerts, really intermissions. And there was a lot of performances of Mahler 6 in that time, in Mahler's lifetime, and then until like in the late 20s of the last century. And there was intermission before the finale, which is also interesting for us if we observe the history of kind of performing that piece. And if we look now for that special moment in the third movement, which is in the end of the third movement, please take a look in your score. This is 190 as a bar. Yeah. $190 at the bar. Here we are. So here, and this you can see it here. This is the only one where we have the change in the opposite. So this is a change from A flat minor to A flat major. And I have my own theory or my own idea about that at the end of the andante, when the movement is placed as movement number 3, this is kind of the question mark for the gigantic and very dramatic finale. And Mahler, as a great conductor of the Wagner ring cycle, was attending about the situation as a ring cycle. I hope you can see here the motif of destiny and fate from the Twilight of the Goods in the German title Götterdämmerung. Kind of as a German term, we call it motif of Schicksalskunde. That the translation for that term is not so easy, and maybe to say how to explain how the destiny will move forward. I don't know any better explanation for the word Schicksalskunde. We know it from the famous assistants for Wagner like Hermann Levy and Felix Mottl. And then in the first scene of the Götterdämmerung, there's the scene where the norms, so kind of prognostication for the future, 3 women is a bit like as the witches in Verdi's Macbeth or in Shakespeare's Macbeth. They are looking into the future and then they ask, weißt du, wie das wird? Like, do you know what is coming now? And this kind of maybe situation that we have here the same character and the same idea to prepare the finale is for me a very strong argument to say I conduct the piece only in the order first movement, scherzo, andante, finale. Now the last comments. If we decide for that order, then we have the situation that the first movement is in A minor and has a fast tempo. The scherzo is in A minor and has a fast tempo, which is pretty the same. I will explain later in the details with the score. If you see here the beginning for the first movement with this kind of very famous entrance of basses and cello, and then again the entrance of basses and cello attended by the timpani, the scherzo, you see it is pretty the same music. And of course, even more in the same or nearly in the same tempo. Then we have the motif, like as bar number 155, the strong march character of the first movement. That's incredible energy. I mean, this is one of the most energetic pieces ever, I would say. And then, of course, we have here the similar phrase in the scherzo, takt bar number 51. So it looks, even the harmony change is a bit there, but it looks, of course, if you see, a bit the same. So this is just an example. So if we go, and I made that for my recording also, in the moment the first movement is finished and you wait only 2 or 3 seconds and you go to the scherzo in an attacca way. So my last performance was in that year in March, and I did again in that way. You have kind of the perfect department together. Both movements are really like twins and both have the same fire. Both have a lot of same character. You have the full tension of the audience, like for a bit more than a half hour. And then you have a longer break before the Andante came with a kind of really kind of extended, far away, like another universe, far away harmony in the E flat major, so far as possible away from the ground, from the basic harmony A minor. Because the finale is also in A minor. So we have three movements in A minor, A minor, A minor, and then only this one as a step kind of out of the drama. So this is kind of my personal thinking about that situation. In a short comment, we don't know really, even we are studying all the facts, all the documents and all the letters what we have. We don't know really about the last will by the composer, which is the correct order. And we have to recognize the musical structure. Of course, I will never blame other colleagues for playing like Andante Scherzo. I can talk here only for my personal reason to defend very strong the old version, which was performed almost, I think, in 96 in Essen as a Scherzo Andante version. And this is all my kind of personal behaving, this kind of really complicated problem. And I think it is one of the most interesting point of musical history and discussion in the symphonic standard repertoire for big orchestras. So I think this is for that point maybe enough. We go for chapter 3 now. Thank you for your attention. And I will now start with the score. And I will delete that kind of note examples now. So I can see at least some participants, which is nice. And I start. In my career, I conducted the piece, as I said, 12 times. And my tempo for the first movement is now getting older, a bit slower and a bit slower. I think it's not the point of physical condition. I feel myself pretty okay. It is a point that I understand that the heavy gratitude, the pesante, the kind of large dimension of the march of the Sixth Symphony of Gustav Mahler needs a bit more time. I can tell you that my first tempo and also for my CD recording is 112, so 112 as a quarter for the beginning. And now in the last performances in that year, I was changing for 96 and 94. I was always also as a child, because I was studying the piece very early, very kind of safe and very secure to make a pretty fast tempo, like Allegro Energico. But then I saw a long time ago a Maestro Ricardo Chaillet with the Concertgebouw Orchestra from Amsterdam in Berlin. That was even the time when the city was departed in the Cold War. So I coming from East Berlin, and he was conducting in the tempo like 72 or 80, so incredible slow. But it was really kind of collapsing me in my kind of investigation what's the right tempo for the first movement of Mahler 6. So I'm very grateful for that moment. Kind of was really great impact for me to think again. So I'm getting now a bit slower, and the 8 notes in bar number 6, this is rehearsal number 1, on 3 for bar number 6 and 7, they need in the string section tremendous power. You have to take care that is a note not too short, but also not too long. The note needs vibrato. The note needs a bow, a strong bow, a good contact. The note needs to be very loud. We need to hear on 3 the string section for 2 times. The diminuendo in bar number 12, when the woodwind section is playing still always fortissimo, fortissimo, there's in the violin section a diminuendo printed by Mahler. It's only all my personal stuff, okay? You can always decide the difference, but I would kind of give the advice, don't change too much. Never go less than mezzo forte, because then you have a little balance problem. The pizzicato in bar number 15 and bar number 17, I would recommend without any kind of vibrato, because then is the note in the pizzicato stronger and more like really a bam, like more in a percussion way, really a beat. In 22, bar number 22, a lot of orchestra, which I observed, they have in the phrase for the viola and the cello, da, 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 dee, da, 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 da. With the 16, they are kind of rushing. So don't do that. Try to keep it in the strong tempo, because of course the character is much more impressive for the audience if you stay in the tempo. I explained kind of old version, Mahler Society 2000 and new version, Mahler Society 2010. There's one really important difference in the bar number 34. If you take a look in the old version, I will now say only old and new. In the old version is the third trombone playing a solo. In the new version is this coming for the first trombone. I think it's really important. You can check it also in the material if you have an orchestra. Both is absolutely possible. I did also both. You see the dynamics for the horn in 39. Upbeat is double forte, and then in 41 again, or in 40 again forte. So they have to come down a bit. I mean, fortissimo and then crescendo, then again fortissimo makes not really sense, so I would recommend a mezzo forte. Big number 5, this is 43 and 44, is for me the same articulation, the 8 note on 3 long, but then in 45 on 1 and on 2, with kind of doppelgriff, kind of for the violins. Really then very short notes. That means da yam bum ba dee yam bum ba da ba ba is kind of very strong in the sense of your music, I hope. And number 6, when we prepare the second scene, this kind of incredible place when we have all that kind of 16 lines, always small figures. Everything with a crescendo, and the last note always very short and very aggressive in a way. So, if you have 2 timpani sets for 57, the best acoustic way for a performance is to put them kind of in the back of the orchestra, one place really left from the conductor side and one side really right. So as far as possible, not together. Some players are complaining a bit and they are saying we can't play together, but you can rehearse it. You can practice it. It is possible. It is in the dimension of stereophonic sound much better. You have the timpani sets each on one side, and you have kind of a great impact from that side. So in number 7, I change for 2, and this is a German folk song, which is a Zitat, a comment. The German title is Der Mond ist aufgegangen. This is kind of translation. The moon is rising up in the night. Very famous German folk song. And is kind of in the first flute part in, you can see almost for the first 3 bars the same notes. Between bar number 68 and 69, you see the typical Mahler comma. That means kind of breathtaking for the players. But here is really important that really the whole section taking a breath together. Also, not only for the air in the lung, in the musical sense. So I always give a bit time for that. And I tell the section, so colleagues, please, could you really take in breath there together? At the end of 68, I give you a bit time for the moment that we can understand what's the meaning here. Second theme of exposition of first movement. Mahler called that theme, as you maybe know, after his wife Alma. There was in the Meierneck, this is in Österreich, in Austria, the place where they made holidays, and he composed. And one day she was describing, we can't believe her all, but maybe that story is pretty true. He was saying, oh, I composed you in a way, please accept it. And at a bit like the egocentric character of the second theme means for me something. It is quite possible, I think, that is really kind of Mahler's wife in a way for the second theme. And we have a sforzato in the flute in the 3rd bar after big number 8, And the same music as in the violins, but the violins don't have the sforzato. For me, a typical situation that Mahler was kind of trying to make some instruments a bit louder in the special point of the performance. I think this kind of sforzato and a lot of accents and a lot of dynamics from Mahler, they were really born in the latest moment during the rehearsal, kind of depending for the acoustic of the hall where he was conducting, depending from the quality of the orchestra which was there. There was a kind of very weak flute section. So we have a lot of sforzato in the flute group. So that means we have sometimes also to make a very critical justice now because we have much better orchestras now. Next, number 10, the famous march by the trombone section attended by the timpanis. Third bar after 10, we have in woodwinds and the violins 1 8 note at the end of the bar. And this 8 notes is almost killed by the brutality of the trombones. So make a strong accent for that note and give time to play it. A real 8 note, make it very clear. Otherwise, you have only your focus for the trombone sections. Also, take care that the trombone sections start in the forte and only in the 5th bar is fortissimo, which is a huge difference for a Mahler symphony between forte and 2. Harps and celesta, also one word for that. I always, even that costs a lot, try to double as much as I can. Almost, I think 70% of my performances of Mahler 6, I had 2 celestas and 4 harps. In 3 movements, in the third movement, in the scherzo, we have almost printed 4 harps. And for the celesta, we have many parts, you can't hear them at all in the gigantic size of the orchestra. So it's much better to have 2. If you have the chance, please try. You will be very satisfied. You will be very excited about the sound from 2 celestas. Also a tremolo in the C major part in the finale. It is still possible to play it with 4 hands on 2 instruments. So we go, we move, we pass the exposition from the first movement. Of course, the recapitulation of the kind of repeating the exposition of the first movement is a must-have, I would say, is a must-have. It's really a stronger piece if you are playing at twice the exposition. Now we go for development part. At the beginning, this is big number 14. Bar number 123B. We have in the percussion group timpani and kleine Trommel, snare drum. At the end, 3 notes against 2. Make clear kind of really the clearness of that point. It is kind of very realistic sound. If we understand, it is not the same rhythm. It is kind of 1 more note for the percussion player against the timpani. If we kind of compare bar number 127 and bar number 132, we see a legato line in the bassoon section in 127, which is not there in 132. So it is your decision to really make it like that. The first time is da 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 ba da ba da dim, or it is da dum ba ba da ba da dim. As the second time, it is the same motif in a different way of articulation. Even the clarinets have the same problems, but the string section, viola and the cellos, they are doing 2 times with the comma. So it is very difficult to hear. My decision was, it is both times the same with comma. I can tell you only my decision for that. Next, we have now our 17. Maybe some people are asking kind of for that Shostakovich moment in the big number 17, a third part after that. So it is 154, the bar number. This in the kind of how the xylophone is coming in, it really sounds like Shostakovich. I think it is really in the darkness of the piece, in that kind of really, special moment, is losing of the devil in a philosophical way. In a philosophical way like Dostoevsky, which we know Mahler was reading a lot, admiring a lot, the Russian literature. So we have really a character which can't be enough cold, can't be enough brilliant, can't be enough nasty in a way. So take care for that. Find a good balance between the woodwinds and the xylophone. Next, springender Bogen. In the German term, it's bar number 174. You see springender Bogen, I think almost you know what that means, but the last note has no point. The last 8 note has only an 8 note, is only an 8 note and nothing. So I decided to play the last note not with the springender Bogen. So it's like, it's not ba 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 ba, it is ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, which is only a small detail, but maybe interesting. Also, the next bar is naturale, that means no springender Bogen, no jumping bow, and then again jumping bow, and then again naturale. It is your decision to decide what is going on here. So it's change, 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 or it's only change, 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 and then go ahead in the same way. Very interesting question. Yeah, please mark it for you. I think it's very, very good. You have an opinion for that as a conductor. And next, I have so many details. I try to avoid something. 192. We have accents in the first violin, but not in the second. Also, the first violin play in bar number 192, the first half of the bar, but not the second violin is not playing it. Why? We don't know. It is like difficult to decide. At least I decided to make the accents, of course, together for both groups. Also, we have to recognize that the typical seating for Mahler was the first violin is on the left side and the second violin is on the right side. So this is not the American system. It's like stereophonic for the violins. So we go for the next, which is the bass clarinet solo after big number 24. We have second bar after 24, a crescendo. And the next is a crescendo, and the next is a crescendo. So what means that? Means that crescendo, then again crescendo. It's maybe a bit tricky. I decided to make one long crescendo from 236, cross 37, then to come for the 8-note section in the next bar. Next, we have the interesting question. Which point is the real recapitulation? Is this 25? When the tempo 1 is coming back, the tempo primo subito, or is it maybe a bit later? For me, the real kind of reprise moment, recapitulation moment, much more overwhelming me as a musician, is 28. For me, 28 is the point of the reprise. And this impact, when the orchestra is screaming and yelling at you like crazy, it's much more kind of convincing me. Here's the point, the unforgiven point of the reprise. Incredible. Articulation of the breath section in 291. Badam, 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 bam. Very short, the second note, and pretty loud, only also in the low position. It's not so easy to play. Rehearse it. Make it very clear. The strings are pretty loud, but the breath is more important. So then again, like the same music, but much more aggressive and in a larger orchestration than in the exposition. I decided 2 bars before big number 33 to take a couple of timpani players. So not only one, I take 2 for that moment. This has to do with the same moment in the finale. I will explain later. We have also between old edition and new edition, now the problem in 348, that in the new edition, it is solo violin. In the old edition, it is a first violin group. Make your decision about that. Both, of course, is possible. We have 2 points, which is interesting, when Mahler reminds us on the famous Erich Wolfgang Korngold. And this moment, 35, is one from that 2 moments. The other one is the andante movement. I will tell you. But the kind of parallel and kind of same sense of the music, also the same kind of modulation and harmonic change is really impressive for me. It sounds really like the later Korngold. So we have now the coda of the first movement. The length of the F sharp for the beginning march in bar number 374 is important. There's no point. Don't make it too short. make a break for the tempo, take care for a bit longer note. A bit longer note may make more music character and make more darkness and make more espressivo of the orchestra possible. And then also we have in the trombone section 3 bars before 37 and an E sharp. So that means we have an F sharp, an F sharp, and an E sharp, like an enharmonic changed F together. And that have to be really clear, noticed by the orchestra, but for you and also for the audience. So, and then we are at the end of the first movement. Don't push the tempo too much in number 42, big number. Etwas drängen, so something like pushing a bit, Mahler's comment. And then later we have the comment, stets 4/4 schlagen, so always conduct 4/4. And in my earlier career, I tried with some performances too, but now I think since 10 years, I conduct always everything in 4. I think it is very true, a very smart and intelligent comment. You have a good control with the tempo, and the character is more heavy, and the tempo is in a natural way more kind of blocked, more fixed as you want as a march. And then 45 with the primary cell number 6, I explained. And then together with the Alma theme is an incredible moment. So take a bit time for that and then move in 45. Scherzo. As I said, I wait 2, 3, or 4 seconds, not more, then I start immediately. So if I come, bam, bam, badi, bam, bada, bam, badam. Bam, 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 bam. With the new edition, the orchestra have to change the parts. They have to change the pages. With the old edition, the orchestra can just concentrate a moment and can play. So take care for that. You have to prepare it. But also, it is possible with a new edition. It is only one move by the left hand for the players, and that's it. The tempo of the scherzo is now still as the same as in my recording. It is for the 8 note in 3, of course. We are conducting 8s here, you know, 112. So the former tempo as I had when I was younger for the first movement. The trombone articulation, 3rd bar after 46. But I will now work with bar numbers, because now the big numbers, they are kind of going different, because old version and new version, they are different now because of the orders of the middle movements. Now you see the problem is there. So we will work now only with bar numbers. Bar number 12, it is not staccato. We have a lot of famous recordings like bum, 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 but it's not staccato. There's no points. There's nothing. So they can play with power, like bam, 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 like that. It's, I think, more interesting. If we have now the next bar number 73 and 74. That change between molto crescendo, pianissimo, and then the pizzicato is very difficult for the players. Very, very difficult. Even you can play it in a technical sense to make the tremendous fast change from pianissimo to fortissimo and then pizzicato is really hard. Take care of it, take a bit time for that in the rehearsal. Even a left-hand pizzicato is not working. I tried that also. It's not so kind of a comfortable place for the players there. We have just to know. So Mahler's Luftpause, comma, is very famous, and we have a lot in the first trio. As you know, the scherzo has 2 trios, and the trio 2 is like a little variation of trio 1. And this kind of little Luftpause, comma, in bar number, let's take a look. What is that? Yes, 98. Yeah, that's far. Yeah, that's right. 98 between 3rd and 4th 8 note. So da di da yam, bam 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 bam, bi di di yam, bam bam. We have to find a very logical sense. It really depends on your character. I think it depends also on your heartbeat in that moment, how kind of excited you are. Really, you have to find your own natural way with the Luftpause. If you are kind of a real kind of more hysteric colleague or kind of more excited, and or you are kind of more kind of based on yourself and you are kind of down to earth type, maybe you can not to take too much. It's your decision, but you have to find also practice with your hands. It has to be very clear for the orchestra. Practice at home for your hands, because it is not so easy at all.
Gabriel,
Okay.
Feel free to use rehearsal numbers. I think most people have the rehearsal numbers.
Okay, the right rehearsal numbers?
Yeah,
okay,
be quicker.
Yeah. Okay, then okay, we do it, John. No problem. We try. 62. After 62, I tell both, okay? 157, 159, 60, 160, and after big number 62. We have nicht schleppen by Mahler, which is very famous comment. I think in 90% of that nicht schleppen, he means a kind of accelerando. Here is also a typical phrase for that. We have to move. So it's yeah, it's like pushing the tempo. So next in the scherzo, we have then 65 and bar number 199. Again, the tempo of the beginning. The xylophone part in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 before 67 is still interesting. We can play a bit like in the 3 and 3 character, like a hemiole. It is of course possible to play bum 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 bum. Maybe more interesting is bum 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 bum. Yeah, in a way like that, you can try for yourself. It sounds very interesting together with the string section, and it's really, of course, a very a nice solo for the player. We have as next before 68 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bars before 68. We have comma in the 2-bar part, also in the bass part, but we have not printed in the contrafagot, contrabassoon part. It's not printed in my scores, maybe in yours, but not in mine. I have 3 editions. So we have to kind of complete that. It's not a big deal. Just as you know, here's maybe a small misprint in. So, like as a primary cell example is number 70, big number. In the scherzo, it is again A major to A minor. Trio 2 starts in big number 71 as a variation. It's a bit more complicated with the bar changes and the tempo. Very interesting question is after 73. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bar after 73, we have wieder wie zuvor, means tempo primo subito. Do we start with the primo tempo subito on 1, on 4, or what? I decided always to do it really on 1, but you can also try maybe on the 4th 8 note. Musically, in a way, maybe makes sense, but you have to be very clear as a conductor there. It is almost in the first rehearsal, almost it's like a bit shaky moment, but you can stabilize it. Accents in the flute and oboe section are pretty nice in 3rd bar and 4th bar after 74, big numbers. Bar numbers 303 and 304. Also like a hemiole character. Bam, 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 bam. I would put the same accents for the violins, for the first violin group. I mean, to support them, to make it clear. So, if we go with the scherzo on the second place in our performance, we came now to the famous point. Maybe you can see in your score, big number 79. This is left page in my score. And on the left side, there is kind of by Mahler 4 harps. Maybe you can see it. Here is kind of, we are the witnesses of the wish of the composer. Though at least 4 harps, even this is only a kind of a baby part for them to play in that moment, like 2 chords and then a couple of bars, again, 2 chords. But really, I tried. With 4 harps, it sounds totally different than with 1 or with 2. We have now 3rd bar after 80, a D sharp in the trombone section, and against the basses in the with E and the cellos with E, that sounds totally wrong. D sharp against E, that sounds wrong. And sometimes the players come also and they are, that sounds wrong, but this is obviously the will of the composer. So makes a difference and make kind of the aggression of that kind of second, make it clear as a conductor. It is kind of really something which is good for the piece. We move. We have from Alma Mahler and also some other people, we have now the comments about the end of the scherzo. Upcoming from 83, the big number. The oboe part in the kind of dee, dee, da, da, dee, da, da, in the B flat major part is maybe kind of small children steps in the sense, like unstable, a bit shaky, a bit like that. That was, of course, as I explained, Mahler's happiest time with small children, and they was exact in the age to do that in a way. So maybe we have a theory about that. And even that means he's kind of prognosticating something or composing something in a sense which he couldn't expect. But we have to know the character should be a bit like that. So the end of the scherzo is pretty mystic. Is kind of a termination, a kind of destruction of the musical structure. At the end is only still the character A major, the A minor there with A, C, A coming from timpani and from the basses. And all the motifs, they are kind of always falling apart at the end of the piece. We come for the third movement. As I explained, the character is now the different. You should take a bit time before. If you play first and scherzo as a couple together, then take at least 2 minutes on stage or even more. Maybe the orchestra can tune if they need it. Tempo. For my intention, it is 69 for the quarter if you start. So pretty slow. It is not an andante con moto. It is andante which takes a bit time. And we go for 89, big number. That means is bar number 28. The upbeat from the first horn is still in ritardando. It's not the new tempo from the upbeat. It's from the double line, really from one. Intonation is very tricky in 61, bar number. It is after 92, the big number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7s, 8s, and 9s bar. It's always with the clarinets pretty difficult with the flutes. My observation is that the clarinet's almost too high against the flutes, and the flutes, they have to correct higher and higher and higher, and then is the problem there. We have now the big number 94, bar number 84. Here we have a situation which I compare always with Strauss and Alpine Symphony, where we have the department which Strauss described auf der Alm. Auf der Alm means it is in the typical European mountain, is a place before the glacier comes, before the real rock comes and the coldness and the snow. There's a place kind of really green and kind of paradise place. The cows are there, living there, and they're kind of moving around there with the belts around the neck. And here we have the situation. Obviously very realistic, because if you look in the first movement, the Herdengeläute, the cowbells, they are backstage in the first movement, not on stage. They are kind of unrealistic as a color. But here in the third movement, the Herdenglocken are in the orchestra, on stage. Mahler obviously wants something which is more realistic. He has really the impression he's in the hills, making a beautiful day in the nature. Because of that, I believe it is pretty the same situation as in the Alpine Symphony auf der Alm. Non-espressivo, for Mahler, written like ohne Expression in big number 96, means almost no vibrato. So you can try from bar number, what is that, 100 to 107 maybe. There is espressivo, so 106 maybe, to play without any vibrato, especially for first violin. Wonderful place in 97, of course, a passage, a part which I love, crazy. It's fantastic. It's really like atmospheric, something totally unique. No arpeggio for the harps in 98, the big number. We're moving forward with the tempo, and the combination between celesta and the harps is more interesting and more clear when the harp players are not doing arpeggio. They are playing secco the chords and that's it. So we came to the end of the third movement, and I will tell you the other places where we are always reminded for the great genius of Concerto. This is big number 102. That sounds also crazy like Concerto. And as we know, Concerto played as a little boy the piano in front of Mahler. And Mahler was pretty impressed about the skills from Concerto. Another notice is upcoming from 165, 166. This is bar number now, guys and ladies, of course, and 167. Auf and abwogend. Explanation by Mahler. It's like waves, so down, high, down, high, down, high. I will tell you later in the finale, there's kind of another part which is in combination with that, pretty the same, but in another character. Then I told you about the only one kind of minor, major primary cell. So this is kind of at the end of the movement after 103, the 7th and the 8th bar. And then we came to the finale, which is now, of course, the most interesting movement. It's a piece. Again, I would recommend a real kind of deep breathtaking on stage for everybody. At least 120 seconds, at least. It is not a shame to wait a moment. It is not to be scared that the audience will be getting loud or something, or they start to whispering. I wait there in the moment. If you are focused, the audience is focused. If you are focused, the audience will you follow and they understand you need a moment. This kind of destruction accord from the very beginning of the piece, you give the first upbeat and you have the feeling, oh my God, this is so black, that music, so incredible black. It's coming not from Mahler himself. I found one kind of Kunstlied, art song by Franz Schubert, Am Meer, so by the sea. And this folk song, you will find it in the complete edition of the songs by Franz Schubert, Am Meer, is using the same accord in the first bar. So it's interesting. I'm pretty convinced Mahler was knowing that song, of course. Maybe there's a connection. So we start as conductors in 2. I'm not so talking about this technique, maybe, but sometimes I will now. 104 is in 4 now. One word for the harp glissandos. I recommend also, we have in all Mahler symphonies the same type of glissandos. I recommend you give the players the instruction, please play the first note very loud and strong as you can. Sometimes double it in octaves, then wait with your fingers a moment. Don't move exactly and immediately for the gliss. Give the strong input of the first note, like bam, wait a moment, and then give the full power of the glissando pretty fast. It makes more sense if you go bam, like that. Okay, it is especially for all the allegro movements and for all the dramatic places is a better way to handle it. Okay, we have one very, I think, famous pizzicato in bar number 16. This pizzicato has kind of a twin sister in the beginning of the development part in the second violence. Maybe you can just fast change your score pages to big number 122. There you see the same kind of extremely strong pizzicato in the second violin section. And then again, at the very end, is a pizzicato there in 165, the big number, again from the bass section. So this is like an iron key for the whole finale. You have like strong notes, like an opening, like a drop into the water, or the curtains open, like ever you want for the drama, like bam, and then the music comes in 3 times, in 3 different times. So we go for, I can't tell you all, but I try to make it now pretty quick because we have now 67 minutes. A really important, I think, is 105, the 3rd and the 4th bar after that, or 4th and the 5th bar. For the bass drum, I recommend the same rhythm as a double bass section. together, like bam, ba bam, ba bam, ba bam, ba bam, ba bam. If the rhythm is changing for something which is not so clear, which you can't clear identify on stage, it is not helpful for you. I was always rehearsing like harps, and the bass drum and the double basses, they play hard, very strong and aggressive, kind of the character of that motif. Okay, then the most famous example for the major minor key in the case of volume is 2 bars before 109. This is kind of one of the lightfulest and kind of most shining C major chords which I ever met in my career, ever saw in every score. It is incredible sound on stage, and it needs to be so strong that kind of the podest on your feet so have to be a bit shaky. So really push forward as you can for the volumes here. Beginning of exposition after introduction. This is 110. Mahler is kind of asking for the G string in the violin section, but in the second bar, the E2 is too high. It is not really possible, even for the very good orchestras, to play it very loud. So it's almost a mix between the G and the D string on that point. We go for the next. I change for 2 in third bar after 113. So everything before is in 4, of course. And then we have, now is kind of what I explained. When we look for the third movement, auf and abwogen, we have that beautiful phrases and that peaceful moment. Now before 116, we have like the horror sister of that moment. Here is it like an explosion of sound, but also down and up and down and up and down and up. So find for yourself, find similar moment as a conductor comparing to the third movement. It is very interesting. So we come for the 118. I will be finished in 5 minutes. 118. This is kind of when the general story, let's call it story. It's this general story of the piece. An individuum is not possible. It is not necessary to say a man, a hero. It is absolute not interesting. One individuum is there. It is trying to live, is holding on life, and then is at the end destroyed, of course, also by that hammer beats. Then here's the point, 118, when that individuum is grabbing the life as much as we can. So this is one of the most espressivo points ever. I would say this is kind of the pure life at all. Really, the kind of the full focus and will to get everything from the life what you can. That is kind of also, I think, pretty close to Mahler's character, because Mahler's life was pretty fast. And then you have the strong change of the character, of course, for 119, when that kind of destructive energy is coming back. 120 in 2. And then, as I told you, I recommend in bar number 247, 8, 9, 250, I recommend really 2 celestas. It's fantastic for the effect of the music. I change again 1 before big number 1, 2, 3, 123 for 2. And then everything in 2, 1, 2, 4 again, like the full life. Now, 1 word for the hammer beats. The hammer is, of course, very famous. We all know the character for Mahler, not metallic sound and so on. We don't need it now. Here for the lesson, I think you know. Really interesting is, in the first script of the score, we had 5 places for the hammer. Incredible. The bar number 9 in the finale, 336, 479, 530, and 783. At the end, we have only 2. So we see Mahler was not sure about it. I think bar number 9 in the finale is really pretty much too early, too soon. It's not logical, it's too much. And also the other. So I think 2 is enough. I use the tam-tam also in the second time. When we have the second time the hammer, which is, let's take a look. This is big number 140. Yeah, here's original by Mahler, kind of use the temtem only you have no hammer or your hammer is not strong enough. But I think for the second time, and that gigantic explosion of the orchestra, the temtem is pretty logical. A lot of conductors, of course, also Lenny Bernstein did it. So we are coming after all that gigantic conflict to the end of the piece. The pure mosso in 150. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth bar after 150. I start so fast with the forwards in 150 that my pure mosso in my performances in bar number 614 is not that much. It's a tiny little bit pushing forward, but not a lot. It is pretty fast. Now is the point 622 before big number 151, 4 bars before. This is a moment where I again, parallel to the first movement, I'm using both timpani sets for the low E. And this makes totally sense. When they are hammering in the beginning, in the first movement, very strong the motif, and here at the end, even stronger. 4 exactly with the recapitulation part. Just the bar before is like 1 and then 3, 4, 1 before bar, big number 5, 153. And then you can kind of control the tempo pretty good. Amazing place. You are in a physical condition nearly the end as a conductor. When you come to that place and the orchestra is screaming like crazy, and you have to control also the balance. I have 2 points in the finale where I really put everything down and always say the players, come down, colleagues, here we play less. I will tell you at least one because we have not enough time. One time is from bar number 688 until the big number 159. So this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, round about 12 bars. This is very important because the piece is very loud, very hard also for the audience, even in small halls, really a problem. And there's really a kind of peaceful moment when the orchestra comes down and you have not always fortissimo, 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 fortissimo. There's another place, but I think we have not enough time. 1, 2, 3 before 161. Now we have mehrere Becken. Instruction by Mahler. I recommend at least 3 couples. That means 3 players. 3 players together makes a really strong impact. 163. I'm really in hope I'm not too fast for you all. 163. The big number 163. If we understand the individuum is fighting for life, is kind of first falling down with the first hammer beat. Falling down with the second hammer beat is always kind of coming as a coming back, kind of recovering, trying to get again to energy. Then 163 is the last try of our individuum to survive. A tremendous dramatic point. So take time for that moment. This is your last showdown. It is really like in a very good Western movie when everything is concentrating on the end, on the showdown between the bad guy and the good guy. And here's pretty much the same. You have at the end in 163, the last breathtaking by the orchestra, the last Steigerung, the last climax. So take time for that. Slow in 4. Start slow in 4. Start slow in 4. Take your time and real kind of 16 notes, for example, in the second viola violin section and the viola violin section before big number 164. Real 16s with a long bow, so take time. Then, now is the final point of destruction arrived. We have last primary cell there in in which bar is it? 70, 781, 2, 3. Again, the brass section. And then for me, the choral by the trombone section together with the bass tuba. The music for me sounds like post-mortem. That means after the death. That means the person or our individual is almost killed, almost dead. And we have with the pizzicato, I mean, with the pizzicato on the big number 165, we have like, with a like clap, bam, with the pizzicato, descent on the kind of coffin, you know, kind of, this is kind of real horrifying moment. So we see at the end, the kind of requiem as a funeral speech from the trombone section and the tuba, then coming to a point of nowhere with noch einmal so langsam in the 813, 14, 15, 816, and the tempo is in slow 8 notes, incredibly slow. The first bar takes in your feeling like a half hour, and then the whole piece comes kind of for a point of not moving at all, kind of everything is stopping, blocked out. The last upbeat for the conductor, I trained that sometimes with orchestra because I think it's very important. If you go to the final end in the A minor, kind of, you are kind of breathing, give like, bam. It is too obviously for the audience. I think you have to tell the orchestra, colleagues, let's give it like really kind of cutting with the X, like really fast. So make a faster upbeat as your tempo is, like really bam, and try. The orchestra will follow you. You can trust them. The effect for the audience and the impact for the music is much more stronger. It's your upbeat as fast as possible. You really got your sound, what you want for that kind of terrible and kind of devastating moment at the end. Then stop with your left hand, the trumpets, and give the last pizzicato just with a minimum of the cue of your right hand as you can. And then you have the end of Mahler 6 arrived. I hope really my instruction was pretty helpful for you. I have to say, I enjoyed a lot. I was so long in 80 minutes. It felt for me like 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
You are amazing. That is really, with the excerpts that you showed, with the analysis that you've given, with your understanding in such detail of the score. I hear it on your recording. I now see it in the score thanks to your analysis. My friend, I share with all of our colleagues who are joining us now that you know, I thank you for giving me my opportunity to debut with the Belgrade Philharmonic with Mahler 6. So I thought I understood the piece then. I now have so much more to discover thanks to you. And I know everybody on this masterclass is just overwhelmed, devastating in that final accelerated upbeat, as you say, but overwhelmed with unbelievable satisfaction to experience this symphony with such a maestro, with such generous and deep wisdom in the piece. I do ask, everybody is saying how wonderful this was for you. So many people have made comments about your recordings of Glier's Third Symphony and how much you appreciated that. You conducted the marathon of the Beethoven symphonies during the COVID restrictions and how you could organize such a thing. I mean, now is not the time to do it, but what I can absolutely say is you are such an incredible, articulate analyzer of the music in word as well as in gesture. Please, let's do this again with another piece of yours that is so deep to your heart. I know everybody, speaking on behalf of everyone, you have just really made a huge, huge contribution to our understanding of this music. Everyone is calling you a true knight of Mahler and Bruckner.
It's a pleasure. I enjoyed, dear John. I enjoyed really. I'm sitting here in Kiel in the conference room because at home my internet is new and not working so well. And then, but I have to say, I feel totally free and I feel really connected to you, and I enjoyed a lot. Of course, I would love to do it again. It's it's a pleasure.
It would take 2-3 hours to really do a piece like this, but
Yeah.
this has given everybody a clear understanding. I mean, there's one question I think that
If you have some minutes, I have still some minutes. Yeah.
There's one question asked by one of our conductors, Tatiana has asked, which I think is a very helpful question for conductors who are doing Mahler for the first time. What are the first parameters that you prioritize when you begin to study Mahler? How do you approach such masterpieces as a conductor when you do them for the first time? If you go back to the time when you first did your first Mahler symphony,
I mean,
how did you approach it?
Yeah, I mean, I heard the pieces on LP because I'm the older generation, of course. I mean, CD was not that, and also all that internet stuff was not there. But I saw also concerts. So I think maybe concerts to see is something, to feel live Mahler is a way. But then for you came definitely the point to take the score and to accept nothing more than the score. Your own way to find with Mahler, especially with Mahler and also with Bruckner, I would also say for the Ring, is like you have to put by sight and everything, kind of don't hear too much for others. I mean, I hope my class for you was helpful, and you can ask people, of course, but you have to find yourself, investigate it for yourself, like in a way. Of course, you take a general overview for the piece. If you know, let's take the first symphony. If you know, then of course make your decision with Blue Minor or without Blue Minor and so on. And then you have the score, let's say 4 movements, the classical form, Mahler 1. So then, of course, make a general analyze for you, like in the phrases, in the structure of the piece. Then make, of course, the technical stuff. I conduct here 2, 1, 8 notes, and so on. A bit harmonic analyze if you need, and so on. Instrumentation, and so on. So if you have that kind of, you will come in. And then try for yourself, like, go for yourself, train for yourself. I'm still training after a long time, again, in my home, like, pieces, like I'm moving my hands, I'm singing the music by myself. I need myself quiet. I go outside, I have a walk with the score. So I really try to find kind of an inner connection with this. And you don't need a CD player. You're doing YouTube. Don't use it. Don't use it. Find your own way. And kind of really look into the detail and say, this tempo, if you can sing at the tempo, it could be possible to articulate for a violin group. Play it, maybe something on the piano or on your instrument. So very important, at least 60%, maybe 70% is that your personal soul, your personal identity have to be connected from your side with the score. And this is only the score and you. I can only recommend that, because we as an older generation, we had not that technical stuff always around us. And it was easier for us. You has always this kind of, I mean, it is always around you. It's pretty easy to say on my phone I have 20 recordings of Mahler 1, now I take a look. No, don't do it. Do it for a time, but then put it by side and then try only the score and you. This is what I can really advise.
Fantastic advice. I think for really any piece of repertoire, it would be really good advice.
Exactly.
Mahler in particular, because of all the details. Ilya Dyakov was online with us, and he's enjoyed playing with you for so many years. We've had conductors from all around the world who have been participating in this online masterclass. Gabriel, thank you for your time. This was
a pleasure. I enjoyed a lot.
A great pleasure for us all. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. We'll do it again.
And I wish all our colleagues that you have the experience to conduct Mahler 6. It is a time in your life you will never forget. Really, for sure. Okay.
Great words.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you again, Maestro.
Yeah. See you again.
Bye-bye.
Of course. Ciao.